My brother and my family have always had some unknown issue with my husband. They don't like him so much, but they are willing to provide when needed. We lost our apartment because of debts, and my family offered to take us in. My husband was excluded from going out with the family under the excuse of, "Your husband is working, so he could save money for an apartment. We don't want to distract him." My brother's wedding was some days ago. I was told to let my husband stay home because, again, he needs to keep working so we can get our own place. Even though my husband said he had free time, I didn't want to leave him behind. I told my mom that I didn't want to go unless my husband came along. We either go together or we stay together. Mom was having none of it. She said, "This is my brother's wedding. If I miss it, the entire family will be upset with me." I caved in after a lot of pressure. Here's what I did. Since I didn't want to be there but had to go, I just isolated myself and refused to engage in any activity, nor take pictures, nor take part in toast. Instead, I became somewhat hostile towards my family and had a frown on my face. Basically, was so out of the mood it affected others. My brother tried to take pictures with me, but I declined. They invited me to join the dance floor, but I refused. Mom came to me and said I was behaving terribly, like a child that didn't want to come. I told her this is me at the wedding they insist that I attend without my husband. She started berating me, calling me pathetic to bring bad vibes and ruin the atmosphere of my brother's wedding and make the guests uncomfortable, all because I'm butthurt my husband couldn't come. Dad started asking me questions about whether my husband is giving me grief about it, and if I was afraid of his fury. I ignored them and remained silent and kept a frown on my face. After the wedding ended, Mom said it was shameful and disgraceful that I behaved this way as my brother's only sibling. She said I ruined the wedding in a way and will have to apologize for acting juvenile. I went inside the room and shut the door. My husband said he understood my frustration, but insisted that I should have just enjoyed myself and tried not to get my family upset with us. Am I the a-hole? Everyone sucks here. You realize you're not 5, right? Just because your mom tells you she wants you to go to a thing doesn't mean you need to go if you've already made up your mind you're not going to have a good time. Or want to make it clear they can't just brush you off if you're upset about something, even if the thing in question is your brother's wedding. Or do you not feel that you can say no outright because you and your husband are dependent on your family's generosity right now? Because it sounds like they really think it's time for you, or at least he. We're out of there anyway, so maybe just focus on making that happen as soon as possible. Everyone sucks here, except your husband. Your brother for that weak reasoning at not inviting your husband. If your husband is too busy working, he'll decline the invitation. That's no reason not to extend one. You for going even though you didn't want to. You're old enough to be married. You're old enough to not be somewhere you don't want to be. Instead, you attended and made sure your displeasure and anger were visible. That is far worse than simply not going. Don't be a Debbie Downer at a wedding because you didn't have the courage to decline the invite that excluded your husband with weak reasoning. Your mother for harassing you into going, when it was 100% your decision to make. Yes, the a-hole. Be an adult and don't go if you don't want to. You acted like a child. I'm 5 months pregnant, happily married. We have highs and lows, but don't we all? I'm the first out of my father's side to get married, but not the first out of the 13 grandkids to get pregnant. My husband has honestly been a dream throughout this pregnancy. Unlike his spawn, which takes after me and has to make things difficult. We had a social distancing barbecue, and my cousins were there, all 5 girls. They're a bit older than me, but none of them married, and they have a bunch of kids, who are pretty great. It's kind of been a sore spot when I was the first to get married. So we were there, shooting the breeze, and the normal drama with having baby daddies and child support. I kept quiet, because they've kind of formed this men are crap ring. We found out last week that the baby is a girl, and my husband was talking loudly gushing to my hard of hearing grandma that we were gonna name our daughter after his deceased mother. He's been so giddy at being a dad. Props more than me. Passed of breast cancer. Anna looked at me and asked if, "Are you sure you want to name her after his mom? It's not going to make him stay." She had a baby 6 months ago, and the dad bounced the same week. Her sisters also jumped in, saying I shouldn't be getting too comfortable, and that men leave once they see how hard it is. My husband overheard and just deflated instantly. I snapped, saying they knew the men they had babies with well before getting knocked up, and blamed them for being crap. But my husband isn't them, and that it's their own damn fault. I ended up leaving and consoling him, because now it's placed doubt that he can be a good dad, and what if he isn't good enough? I'm getting angry texts for ruining the mood. Edit. They all planned their babies, and I'll be honest, my daughter was an oopsie. We also were having a bit of a rough patch around the time our daughter was conceived, because his mom died around then, after her long battle. Grief is still super raw, so I imagine that's why he felt so bad. Edit. Someone asked what happened to my cousin's baby daddies, boyfriends, etc. Here's total. None of them were married. One cheated. Had baby with boyfriend when she found out to keep him to stay. Both thought this would mend the relationship. 2. Friends with benefits. Self-explanatory. Pays child support and deployed. Kept baby because he'll stay in the States then. 3. Relationship was failing, so had baby. This didn't fix it. 4. Planned baby. Thought would help get him stay in the country, get serious, sober. His card was denied. He also had another family. Edited for clarification. 5. Knew within a month of meeting him she wanted a baby with him. Stopped using condoms, and instead did no prevent, no try. He didn't know. He bounced within the week. Final edit. I've already decided to distance myself from them, for my family's sake. Me and my husband are talking about going no contact. He also wants to thank you all for the good advice, and that helped clean a bit of our doubt up. Not the a-hole. They ruin the mood by projecting their insecurities on you. They're jealous, so possibly the reaction could have been harsh, but they're going to see things that make them jealous their whole lives. Time to grow up and get over it. Not the a-hole. They have no right to say that. They are rude and jealous of the fact that they don't have a man that's excited to parent. They say you ruined the mood, but they did that to themselves. Your husband seems excited, and that's a good thing, for you and your child. If I was you, I'd minimize contact with them. Telling you to not get comfortable in front of the man you married and are having a kid with was a a-hole move. Not the a-hole. They shouldn't be saying stuff like, men won't stay, to someone who's married, so you had all the right to say what you said. They shouldn't let their relationships or experiences with past relationships affect yours, and I hope they didn't get into your head at all, because you and your husband sound so happy. The baby is just as much his, so then saying stuff about not naming it after his grandmother is a bit selfish of them. They ruined the mood first by saying all that, so don't worry about their angry texts. He will make a great dad, and you'll make a great mother. My daughter, 7, is developing an interest in music, and I mentioned getting her lessons. Mother-in-law insisted that she should give her lessons, as anyone offering them on the internet was probably a loser. Mother-in-law has had a long career on and off Broadway, as well as writing and composing, and won multiple awards. But the thing is, she's crazy, and my kids don't even really like her. My husband pushed the idea because he is cheap, and mother-in-law was willing to do it for free. My daughter was okay with it, because she did see mother-in-law perform live once, and wants to be like her, though still doesn't really like her. So, the day of the first lesson, mother-in-law got there 20 minutes late, said my house makes her claustrophobic, and then jumped on my piano like it was a ducking beanie bag. I asked her to please be careful, and she rolled her eyes. She proceeded to give my kid half-hearted lessons, and sat on my piano the entire time. I finally asked her nicely to get off of it, and said I would get her a chair. Mother-in-law scoffed, and said she sits on her own all the time, and hers costs way more than this crap. I said she can do whatever she wants in her own house, but she is in my house. Mother-in-law said she likes sitting on the piano, and to leave her alone. My daughter even told her she should get off of it, and mother-in-law called her no fun, and told her someday if she makes it, she is going to want to sit on the piano too. Finally I snapped and threatened to spray her like a cat. She got down and looked shocked. Mother-in-law told me I was just a teacher, and I know nothing about music. I yelled at her that at least I know something about respect. Mother-in-law began to tear up and said I was calling her fat. She is not fat, nor have I ever even implied it. Then she said I humiliated her with the water. I finally told her to just leave, so she did, but she called father-in-law. Father-in-law called my husband and cussed him out for a solid 5 minutes. He also texted me that I'm disrespectful and ugly. Most people I've talked to are on my side, but my mom said I'm the a-hole, because people sit on pianos in movies, and obviously mother-in-law knows what she is doing, and I'm probably just jealous. My husband thought it was funny, but wants me to talk to her when I'm cooled down, so she can continue the lessons. I'm going with not the a-hole. You asked her to get down several times. She didn't. I thought telling her that you were going to spray her like a cat was a little much, but, you warned her many times. She insulted you. You didn't insult her back. I think lessons should be cancelled. Not the a-hole. Mother-in-law is unhinged and insufferable. Please consider a professional in teaching your daughter. She was being disrespectful to you in your own home. I personally thought the spray thing was mild. I would have done it, and tell her to scat, but that's the pettiness of me. Not the a-hole. You asked her not to sit on the piano. She refused. She insulted you, your home, your boundaries, your parenting, and got father-in-law to back her up with more insults. It's not about piano, it's about ego, and speaking as someone entrenched in the entertainment industry, a lot of performers are total narcissists. Mother-in-law fits the bill, and husband is too broken down by it to fight her. So he's fighting you instead, choosing the path of least resistance, because he's learned that's the best way to keep mom happy, going with her insane flow. My 27 male parents are divorced. Father is remarried and they have an 8-year-old child. My parents' divorce was really nasty. It got even worse when my mother successfully sued my father for child support. It was my stepmother's great advice that my father fight any payments, and in the end, they've ended up paying more via travel across the country to appear in court, lawyer fees, the stress. Needless to say, neither party has anything nice to say about the other. My stepmother has taught my half-brother to be disrespectful to my sisters and I. He will say things like, "Your mommy should go to jail," or "Your mommy made my mommy spotting." Sick. Stepmother had a miscarriage a couple years earlier and has since had her tubes tied. Frankly, we think she was too old to have a second child. Now that travel is possible again, I went to visit my father's family. My father insisted, because my grandfather is in a nearby nursing home and I live across the country. He is getting old and might be the last time. Of course, my half-brother was a real crap the whole time, which I mostly ignored. He also lets his pet ferret run wild in my room, without my knowledge. A guest room above their garage in their very large house. So it isn't like there's nowhere else for the animal. The animal ate from my carry-on bag. I had bought dog treats to take back to my dog. I had to tape the hole up with duct tape. No one offered to buy me a new one. I was visiting my grandfather at the nursing home, and my stepmother and half-brother came to pick me up where we would meet my father for a kids' soccer match my half-brother was in. Before I got into the car, I asked my stepmother a couple of questions about something. I can't remember. Maybe the nursing home hours or something mundane like that. Through the open window, my brother started screaming at me to get in the car. At this point, I lost it and yelled back at him to shut up. My stepmother got angry and gave me this big lecture on how he is 8 and I am 27, blah blah blah. During the ride, I told her if she keeps raising her kid like this, he's going to grow up to become a loser no one can stand to be around. She threatened to take me back to the nursing home, which she didn't follow through with, then proceeded to give me some sort of mental health pop quiz, and told me I need to get checked out by a mental health professional. Questions included, do you feel you have to do things at certain times? Me, yes, because I have to be at work at certain times. Both my father and half-brother are on medications. When we got to the match, it was weird because after all this ruckus, she acted like nothing happened. She didn't even tell my dad. So, am I the a-hole for saying her kid will grow up to be a loser no one can stand to be around? Not the a-hole. I would say it's not the child's fault that is being raised that way, but at that age, you should already know what's right and what's wrong. Your stepmother sounds like a nightmare and deserve to hear that. You should tell your dad. Maybe he is unaware of her and the kid's behavior. If he condones it, then stop visiting. No point in coming if they destroy your stuff and make you feel bad. Is the 8-year-old on medication? What the actual duck is going on? The kid is 8. It needs parenting, not medication. Definitely not the a-hole. His manners are absolutely horrible, and it's her fault. If she does not change, then he will definitely grow up to be someone that nobody likes. My brother is 35, and due to an extremely shady lifestyle. This is conjecture from what he says sometimes. I admit I have no proof. He is able to afford a brand new car every few years, as well as a home with a pool, garage, etc. I know I sound like I'm jealous, but I want to stress that it's not his material items I disapprove of. It's his lack of care and interest in anybody around him. He pays my mom a lot of money, so she's in his pocket, and he parades around his 8-year-old as though he's a toy or a pet, not as though he's a living, breathing child. I'm one of the ones he's always been critical of, and vice versa, because his disrespect towards women and other qualities makes me think he's, well, a loser. I know he pays child support, and I know my nephew's room at both my mom's house and my brother's house are full of toys and clothes, etc. And my brother sends my nephew to a private school. But he allows his ex-girlfriend, who is truly a humble, hard-working person, she's struggling with bills, etc., but always has a smile on her face, to struggle and go without. This obviously impacts my nephew, and he's told me in the past he wishes mommy was as happy as daddy. I saw my brother recently and said to him, why don't you pay some money towards ex-girlfriend for groceries, so your son can eat well when he lives at his mom's? Why don't you help her with school, because she is currently studying all night on an online course? He told me to stay out of his business and said that his responsibility is to his son, not to his ex-girlfriend. I said feeding your son when he's at his mom's isn't your responsibility. And then in front of my mom, he said, that's what child support is for, you dumb duck. I retaliated and said he was both a loser and an a-hole for driving around in his car when he knows he's letting his ex suffer that way. My mom told me to get out of the house because I was being rude and not dropping the subject. I can't believe I'm considered the a-hole over this. Yes, the a-hole from the sounds of it. You're upset he's not giving his ex money. If he's paying child support and sending the kid to private school, then he's doing more than enough. And if he's giving your mom money, he's looking after her too. Mind your own business. Yes, the a-hole. If your brother pays child support and the mother of his child still isn't feeding the child, it would seem to me that she's the a-hole. Having a child with someone means you're responsible for the care of the child you helped to create, not for sending your ex to school. From Oki's comments and an understanding of how child support calculations go, the court decided that he should pay an amount that is way beyond what he should be paying, due to him earning money illegally and not showing his true income to the courts, so a fair value cannot be established. He does pay more than what was decided in court. However, it is less than what a court would decide his support should be if they knew his true income, and he also controls how that money will be spent, as in which brands the ex can buy food from, which is not how it would go if he was paying that out of child support. So he basically screwed his ex in court because he was able to present a much lower income, being forced to pay much less child support than what it should be, still pays less than it should be, and controls how the extra he pays can be used. Honestly, that seems like real a-hole attitude.